Okay, so we are being recorded, and I am now going to mute you guys. Let me just find my audio here. All right, I am going to mute you all, so here we go.
The conference has been muted.
All right, everybody, you are now muted, except for me, and we're ready to begin. So I'm going to go ahead and move into, incidentally, if you need to talk to me now because everybody is muted, you need to use the little toolbar that's at the top of your screen, and the chat panel is the one that has like two cartoon bubbles on it. It's the third one from the end on the little gray toolbar. So if you need to chat, you chat there, you type your message, and then you select the chat recipient. You can send it to me, I'm the chairperson or presenter, or if you want everyone to see your question, you can choose the broadcast to all participants choice, broadcast to all. Okay, so I'm going to, without further ado, get started now. And so just a little bit of PowerPoint. Just talking about item records. We're going to talk about three different topics, and if I remember correctly, we are going to talk first about item records and adding item records. Then we're going to talk about LEAP, the little half hour on LEAP, and we're going to spend the last hour looking at the PAC. So, item records. There are a lot of different views of the item record: cataloging, circulation, source and acquisitions, notes and notices, and history view. There are also item templates that help you create items. We're going to look at ad hoc bulk change briefly, and we're going to look briefly at printing labels and label printing in general, but not in detail. We are going to fly through this because we're really focusing on creating items. We're going to assume item templates will be made for you. But to just talk about the views of an item record, you primarily edit in the cataloging view, and of course you can make notes in the notes view. The rest of this is populated from the history of the item. So the cataloging view is the first view of the record. Much of the cataloging view comes from the existing and attached bibliographic record. Parts of the item record that are shaded in gray may not be edited, but if they have a white background, they generally can be edited. It's hard to see in this illustration. I'm going to add to your own. I should minimize a bunch of stuff here. In fact, way too much stuff. Hey, get rid of that and this. And actually, that's not a bad background, but just get rid of these screen icons because they're distracting. Okay. So here I am. I'm in your Polaris shortcut bar. I'm going to assume that you know how to get there because you've had training or you've been exposed to some training at this point. So to create an item, you can do it from a number of different places. Typically, you're going to find the bibliographic record that you want to link the item to first. So I'm going to look for a record called Gardening Vertically. So from this view, this is the search results. And of course, typically you have more than one. And if you have more than one and you have to Control-Shift-A to see all results, you can do that. But this is not that typical of a title. So we're seeing Gardening Vertically. There are 7 linked items attached to this. If I right-click on this, I can view the linked items. So here are all the records that are with this. If I wanted to, right from here, I can actually create an item record right here. So if I were to click that, I would come into this new item record options dialog. This allows me to create more than one item at a time if I wanted to. But for the purposes of this discussion, I'm going to assume you want to create one single item. So if I wanted to create one single item, and I am here, I'm going to click the OK button just to move past the new item record options dialog. Once I do that, me into a blank item work form. Now, this item work form has an advantage over a totally blank one in that it is already linked to a bib record. You can see it's linked in this upper portion to Gardening Vertically, 24 ideas for creating your own green walls. And the part of it that's bold, bib control number, which is required, is what is controlling this linkage. If I change this number, I'm going to just put a 2 here instead of a 1. Now it's shoes, a history from sandals to sneakers. That's pretty funny. And if I go to 3 at the end here, now it's That's Disgusting, Unraveling the Mysteries of Repulsion. Quite an interesting collection. If I go back to 1, which is what it was at the first place, 7-1, now I'm back to Gardening Vertically. So you can always link a record of an item record, change what an item record is linked to by changing the bib control number. But typically you want to just start from the bib record, which is what I did, and then this linkage is already made. The item does not have to have a barcode in Polaris. So you can save an item record with no barcode. Some other systems require that there be a barcode, and it might have to be a dummy barcode or something if you don't already have the item in hand. So that's not the case. So when item records are created in acquisitions, they are created as on-order items, and they're fully completed except they don't have a barcode, and their status is on order. And as you can see, my default status is processing, which basically means it's in cataloging. Other choices were on order or available. Available meaning it's on the shelf. So we'll leave it at processing in this case. So first thing I would probably do is scan a barcode. So, okay, so there's my barcode. Barcodes can be alphanumeric or they can be, many numbers, whatever. Next, I might decide what collection this should go into. So I can choose a collection. We're going to put this one in nonfiction. So here's nonfiction. And then I would choose, owner and assigned. Now this stuff is filling in because I am logged in, hang on, at the Saskatoon Public Library. So it's choosing my logged in library. But if I don't want to make it for that library, I can change it. So I could go ahead and pick a different library. We can put it in, Shellbrook Public Library. And then I can, put that in Shellbrook Public Library on the library level for the assigned. So we have the owner as the branch, the assigned as the library level, but it's the same entity. People often ask what's the difference between these two. I don't want to get into a long conversation about philosophy, but the owner is where the item would be returned if it were floating. I think I need to put a branch in here, Shellbrook. Hang on a second. Let me just make sure I'm not. Yeah, no, that's right. Okay. All right. The assigned controls the policies and procedures. I'm just making sure I'm putting this in. Having a little momentary. You're so huge that it just kind of flips me out when I'm looking at you. Yes, that's right. Okay. Okay. All right. The assigned controls the rules for loaning and overdue fines and fees. So whatever the policies are at this library or branch will be the policies that control how this circulates. So let's call this material type being a book or books. Loan period is going to be, 21 day. Fine code, I'm making this up, so if I get it wrong, don't be mad at me. Let's say it's 20 cents. Renewal, I'm allowed 2 renewals. So I had to fill all of that in. I had to choose the owner and the assigned and the collection. If there was a shelf location, I could choose that as well. One by one, going through the whole thing. And now I need to give it a call number too. So I'll give it a call number, which might be a numeric call number. And I didn't get it from the bid record. I could have gotten it from the bid record. So if I want to save this, I could have had it come over from the bid record, but you're not set to do that or it would have done it by itself already. So if I look at the bid, we have, 635.048. So I'm just going to grab that and assume that that's what I want, but that might not be what I want. And then I'll stick it in a class. Let's say our collection is just not that big of a deal, so we don't have to have that many decimal points. And then I'll put the cutter in, or whatever. So here we have, we have a call number in here. We have the owner, the assigned, the collection. We've defined all the stuff around material type, loan period, fine code, renewal limit. In this case, under request, I've said that this is going to be loanable outside the system. In other words, it is available for interlibrary loan. I have said it is going to be holdable. And if I needed to limit that holdable, I have choices to limit to pick up at a specific branch, or to patrons from this library and branches, or to patrons from this branch only, or preferred borrowers. Preferred borrowers being a subgroup of the borrowers. I believe that all of that holds routing stuff is being taken care of for you already in system admin, so you don't need to worry about anything other than loanable outside system and holdable. Other things that are available in this item record include checkboxes for non-circulating and for display and pack. So if I save this, and I'm just going to look at what it looks like in the pack. Well, this is the Shellbrook Public Library, so we'll go to the bid record and pack view. It usually takes a second for it to load. It's taking a second. Okay. And then if we go to availability, you can see all the items, and no items available at the Saskatoon Public Library. Oh, that's very strange. Let me switch it over. I go to Shellbrook. Oh, and if it was in processing, I didn't check it in. Hang on a second. Let me just make it available. So here it is, and I'm going to check it in, all right, so that it goes from processing to in. So I could do this in circulation, but I'm going to do it right here. Oh, it's in transit. Drat it. Let's put this back at Saskatoon so that it's in. I should have been paying attention to where it was logged in. Okay, so hang on, Saskatoon. Here we go. And Saskatoon. Because I don't want things in transit while I'm demoing for you. It makes it harder for me to show you what things look like in the pack. So let's find that Saskatoon Public Library. Okay, now I'll save this again. And I'm going to check it in again. Now it went to available. So now let me come back over here. And let's look at availability. No items available locally. Click to see items from all branches. That's interesting. That, why is this not showing? Oh, I'll have to refresh it. That's what it is. So sometimes when you do a search like this, in order to see your result, you have to actually research it. So I'm going to close this and just search again. Open, now it has 8 items. Now I'll open it. We'll look at it in the pack. That's really interesting. I have to look at this in your real pack because this is killing me now. Hang on a sec. Let me just go. Actually, you're one more second. I'm sorry. I just have to get myself organized. So let me just grab that URL. This is your pack. I'm going to look at it live because I feel like that thing is not going to. Okay, so here's your pack, and I'll do gardening quickly. Okay. There we go. So now, here is the one that we just created, which has our call number on it. And you can see it's nonfiction. You can see that it's available. Well, the reason I wanted to go this far and show this to show you what happens with some of those checkboxes. So if okay, let me go back to items, just created, and were to check non-circulating on this. So now I'm saying this is how it would circulate if it circulated, but non-circulating, it doesn't circulate. Save it, and I'm going to close it. Come back over to your pack. And I'm going to do the search again so that I get a fresh search. And then availability. And this time, you'll see that because I checked non-circulating, I'm seeing library use only. That's in-house library use only. So non-circulating, you have the capability to still define circulating parameters even though you are not actually circulated. So that if you ever did want to circulate it, if some circulation, and you got a non-circulating block, and you said, okay, I want to circulate this anyway because it's, our big donor or whatever, then it would still circulate according to these rules, even though it's non-circulating. So, but this is the circulating item, so we'll make it circulating. If I had unchecked display in pack, it would be here, but it would not display in the pack, so it wouldn't be discoverable in the pack. Okay, so I'm going to pause for a second and ask you if you have any questions about this basic stuff about creating a single item. Again, the way that I did that was I went to the record, I right-clicked and said create. So I did a search. Just show you that again. So I went to cataloging. I did a search for a bib record. I found the record. I right-clicked on it, and I chose create item record. That's for a single record. I skipped through the new item record options dialog and said okay, and it brought me into the actual item record work form. All right, so other ways I can make this if I'm actually in the record, can copy an existing item. So I would then display all the linked items, so I could do that from linked item records here or from links item records, either way. Here's the list of item records. So if I wanted to make one based on an existing one, I could display the existing. And so I'm adding another copy at the same library or at a different library. I'm going to use the copy little toolbar icon, or I can go to File New. Same thing, it's the File New icon. I get a dialog that says, do I want a clear, in other words, a blank work form with none of this stuff filled in, or do I want to copy the existing work form? I want to copy the existing work form. I'm not going to use a template. I'm just going to copy the existing work form entirely. Use existing template would be copy this item as though I was just copying it from a template with none of the rest of the stuff filled in. So copy existing work form. I'm going to say okay. So now I've got the same record, but you'll notice that the barcode is highlighted, and that's because it's expecting me to scan in a new barcode. So demo 2245. So now I've scanned in a new barcode. I'm going to save it. I'm actually ready to go. I now have a new copy. So if I display all the available items now, we should see, let me just, whoa, oops. Saved it, been processing. Okay, let me just close this and display all the items. Yes, so now we have two. This one that's new based on this one. So that's creating based on an existing. And if I wanted to, I could create another one based on an existing for an entire thing. So I could take this record, I could say, new, and let's use the existing template. You'll use a template for nonfiction. Let's see if I can find some nonfiction. We don't have a nonfiction. We have a kit. I can make one for a kit. Let's make a kit. So this would be for Saskatoon FMC kit. So I could just take and get to a blank work form and apply a template to it so that it's partially filled in. It's not going to take any of the rest of this stuff. So I'm going to say okay. So now I have a work form, a new item for the Saskatoon Book Club in a Bag collection, and it's a kit. I have to fill in the call number, and I've got to put in a bid control number to link this up, and I have to put in a barcode. So if I don't know the bid control number, I could go find something. Let's go find something by Book in a Bag. Have to put something in here. I'm putting a wild card in. So keeping bees, that's good. So now I chose keeping bees. I double clicked it and it populated the bid control number, which then gave me all the rest of this information. So now I just have to put in a barcode. So we've looked at three techniques now for creating an item, a single item. The three techniques that we've looked at are, we have gone from a big record, and we have asked to create an item. We have skipped the bulk item creation dialog, the new item options dialog, and gone to basically a blank item work form, but with it linked to the bibliographic record. So then we have copied an existing item record where we just changed maybe the collection, or maybe we didn't change anything and we just were adding a second copy for that same collection. And finally, we've created a new item record based on an existing item record where we simply used it as an opportunity to choose an item template. And what the item template does is it gives us a blank work form with some parts of it filled in based on the template values. Okay, I'm going to pause here for a second and ask you guys if you have any questions so far about what we're doing. Just to make you feel a little bit better, I want you to know that I have a big PowerPoint. I don't want a presentation because it's too long, but I'm doing slides on all this stuff. Things are, what item templates are, and how to create item records. So the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to be creating new item records, and we're not going to do an individual, which we've just done. We're not going to do a bulk create. So we're going to create multiple item records using a template or not using a template, but more than one item record at a time. Okay. So to do that, we're going to want to start out probably at a bid record, and I'm going to stay in gardening vertically. I might as well just mess up one record. You guys are very quiet, no questions so far, so I'm hoping you're still there and you're not asleep and I'm not talking. Nope, looks like you're still there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to again go to the Create Items icon, which is this icon that's white and blue on the toolbar, Create Item Records, or, yes, thanks, Rob, and or I can go to Tools and I can say Create Item Records. Either way gets you to the same thing. So it gets me into this dialog. This new Item Records dialog allows me to create multiple item records at a time. So the way you do it, it's a little bit mind-blowing. This upper section, if I'm not going to use a template, I can still apply some things to all items I'm going to create. So if I do it without a template, let's say that I want to create something that has a J prefix and the class number is ROW and it has a suffix, 2012, let's say. So that would be, my call number for everything. The price is $26.50. The status is going to be processing. Renewal limit is going to be 2. I want it to display and pack. I want it loanable and holdable. And now I'm just going to say, make me 3 copies. Now, if I don't fill in anything else, even without a template, I can still go through and say for what branch. So I'm going to do everything for Saskatoon just because it will make my life so. I'm going to do that. If I hit the letter S, it'll move down, so let me do that. So now I'm in the S's. I'll just keep hitting S, and then I can go to this Morrison. So I've got that. Now I can pick the collection. I'll hit the J for juvenile. Let's call it juvenile fiction. I could do a shufflecation. Let's say these are books. So I'm basically clicking in the grid and picking values that will apply to all of these. And okay. So I didn't apply a template, but I put some common values for call number, price, status, renewals, display and pack, all this other stuff. I've said 3, make me 3 for this one collection. And yes, I could actually make another one for a different collection if I wanted to. We'll just do that. We'll just do one here. And it takes me a minute to do this because this is not the way I would suggest, but I just want to show it to you. And again, books. And I'm hitting the numbers. I'm hitting 2 for 21. I'm going to hit T for 20 cents. T, W, actually I have to pick it. 20 cents. And then pick Abbey Branch. Okay. So here we're making 4 copies altogether. You'll notice barcode total is 0, item total is 4, barcode is 0. So if I want now, I can add barcodes to be bulk created. So we'll do demo. Actually, I'm going to save myself some typing. D. All right. Once I see 4 barcodes and 4 items, I'm good. These, I should be scanning these left to right. They will stay in the order. I'll have the first 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. to here will be for Saskatoon, and the last one will be for Abbey Branch, D4, 5, 6, 7. You can remember that if you want to. I'm going to go ahead and say OK, and it's going to bulk create without a template all of these things. So it just did create these, and these are the 4 that I just bulk created. And just to prove to you, here's the Abbey Branch Library one, and you got D4, 5, 6, 7. So that's without using templates in that bulk create. And I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to do it again, but this time I'm going to use a template. So what is a template? Let me show you. Before I go to use it, let me show you a template. So over in the land of cataloging, catalogers will be creating item templates. And so I'm going to go to the item templates. Some item templates that are used in acquisitions and some in circulation. You already have 507. So I'm going to go look at them all. So these on the fly and on order that we're going to be seeing are all in active circulation. But here we have some other ones. And I'm going to see if I'm actually going to put in the letter G here. So here's one that we created in training. This is a generic book for Saskatoon Francis Morrison Central Library. And if we take a look at this one, see we named it. And I named it for the collection first and then the branch. And that really should be AAA, which is the code in Polaris for Francis Morris and Central Library, but I just did FMC because it was easier for me to remember that. It doesn't have any relationship to a linked item because it's not used to a linked bibliographic record because it's not used for a specific record but for any record. Gen stands for generic, so what we did here was select the owner, the assigned. We did not select the collection, but we said mostly we're creating books, so we did books 21 day and 30 cents and 2 renewals, and we chose a call number with Dewey as the classification, and the home branch is Saskatoon. We made it loanable and holdable, display and pack, and we made it circulating. So this is a partially filled out template. You could have a more filled out template, and we really looked at this in the cataloging class. You know, we can create templates for your common collections that are coded all the way down to collection and everything except the call number, basically. But this one, it lets me have to fill out less of it to complete it. So now that you've seen what that template looks like, I'm going to apply it. So I'm in the record. I'm going to say create item records. This time I'm not going to do anything over here, although I could put in a call number if I wanted to, and perhaps I will. It will be, 635.08 or whatever, and I don't remember, but we'll pretend that I do. And I'm going to go ahead and now I'm going to create, two items, and I'm going to choose the template in the template column here at the end. So I'm at the end, I'm going to choose the template, and I'm using G, I'm typing the letter G to jump to the G's, and now GenBook. It populates all that stuff, and now I'm going to pick a collection for this, and we're going to pick nonfiction. I can type an N for non. It'll at least get me closer. Right, so there's nonfiction. Everything else is filled in from the template that I chose, and we're going to say this is good. So now I'll just do some barcodes. All right, so now we're creating 2 item records with these 2 barcodes using the GenBook template for the Francis Morris collection. And now we have those 2, and if we look at them, they're fully completed. Again, their status is still processing because they haven't been checked in circulation, but they are complete, they're linked up, they have barcodes, all is good. So what happens if I forgot that these should have had a prefix? Like these are supposed to have or they're supposed to be on the new shelf. So I should need a shelf location, let's say that. So there's something called the ad hoc bulk change, and that's the save your butt if you made a mistake. Like you didn't put in any barcodes you didn't scan in the barcodes, or you needed a new shelf location, or you made some other mistake. I'm going to right click on this. You can, in any list of items, and they don't have to be items for the same thing, you can get to this ad hoc bulk change. So ad hoc bulk change lets me make a change to what I've done. So here we're going to make a change and add a shelf location, and I'm going to find a new book or something. Here's the new books. So now I'm going to put these on the new bookshelf. Said yes, and I'm going to continue. I may get an error message because it might want to write a report someplace, but yep, it couldn't write the report to the program data file. I had an opportunity to change that location, but it didn't stop it. It actually should have gone through. So now if I were to look at all of the items associated with this, the ones that we just created are right here, and they're on the new bookshelf. Ad hoc bulk change. To get to ad hoc bulk change, it's any time you have a list of items. So I'm selecting 3 of this whole list. I'm going to right click and I can get to ad hoc bulk change. If you don't want to get that report error, you can go to the reports page and browse and put the report someplace where you're allowed to put it. Like on the, documents or my reports or wherever. Let's go to documents and my reports. And then If I put them there, then I won't get, I didn't do any changes. Okay, never mind. So we'll cancel out of here. But that would prevent me from getting that error. So these are all items for the same bibliographic record, but if I was doing something else, if I had been searching for item records, and I did a search on title, and I searched for dogs anywhere in the title, going to be a big result. So 28 of 89, 88, and Control-Shift-A to see them all, but I don't care. I can pick totally unrelated. Here's the dog's bark, and the Chihuahua, and the Sled Dog Encyclopedia, and the Dogs of War, and anything else, maybe the Kohler method. Right-click, and I can get to Ad Hoc Bulk Change to do something to all of these. And I can change the owner, the assigned branch, the collection, shelf location, home branch, or temporary location. I can change the search status, the material type, the loan period, all of this stuff. If you need to make a change where there's a checkbox on the left and a checkbox on the right, that's a yes or no, you check the thing you want to change. So let's say I wanted to make all of those things non-circulating. I would check non-circulating and then check this checkbox to say, yes, I'm making a change to non-circulating, and the change that I'm making is that I want these things to be non-circulating. Or vice versa, I could say I don't want these things to be non-circulating. Here I'm saying I'm making a change. If they're non-circulating, make them circulating. So the checkbox to the left says I'm making a change to this, and the thing on the right, whether it's a pull down or a fill in or a checkbox, is the change that you're making. So if I were changing the material type, here I'm checking the material type to say I'm making a change, and then the change I'm making I'm going to pick here. We'll put these in the cake pan collection. I'm obviously not going to continue. Call number. So here you can pick your shelving scheme. If I wanted to force the call number from the bid record, I could check this checkbox. Otherwise, I can fill in each of the elements separately. Under notes and blocks, if I needed to add a block or a note to this, here's a library assigned block, and I'm going to add check contents, right, or count pieces. I think that was one of them. Count pieces, and then under free text block, I'm going to say, 3, so they know there's 3 pieces in each of these. Then I could go ahead. Under miscellaneous, this is if the items don't have barcodes. So if I forgot to do my barcodes, I get another chance at it right here to scan in barcodes. Also things like display and pack, and this is one of those double checkbox things. Display and pack, and check or uncheck. Uncheck is don't, and check is do, display and pack. Price, whatever. So these are all the same changes you can make in an item record set, with the exception of miscellaneous. I don't think you can do the item barcode thing, but I may be wrong about that. I'm just not sure. But this is ad hoc bulk change. So we've looked at, as far as I'm concerned, all the ways of making item records, and then ways of changing them. And the last thing I want to talk about is doing spine labels. So when you save a new item record, automatically Polaris wants to make a label. So in Utilities and Label Manager, it's been create spine label. So here you can see, the spine labels for the ones that I saved. If you needed to make a spine label and you weren't already saving, you could set a good record. The blah. So I want to make a label for this. I'm going to go to the existing items, any existing new one. In this case, a single spine label is this little purple book with a spine label. Multiples means more than one. So if I needed 3 or 4, let's say I needed 5. So 5 spine labels. Okay. So now where they went is they're over here in Utilities. And under Label Manager, we have 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. All right, so quick, guys, about item records because we're getting ready to move on. Okay, we're going to move on. Alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead and close some of the stuff, and I'm going to keep the shortcut bar open, but I'm not going to be using it in this next section.